Are we live?
Are
Are we live?
we live?
Are you live?
Are we live?
I think we're live.
Are we live?
We're live.
Okay.
Thanks everybody.
I'm not.
Thanks everybody for coming back to Jake the Atheist's after party. We have Jake for is my video coming out really bad? I have no idea. Oh, there we go. It's fixed. Right. Everybody, thank you very much for coming back tonight. Really appreciate it. We've got Jake with us tonight. We've got Untangelo with us tonight. We've got the wonderful Simos and the awful Dave as well with us tonight. So thanks everybody for coming back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for doing all that. And on Simos, just as we were about to go live, was about to ask a question. So without further ado, I will bounce over to Simos and let Simos go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, so it's more of the same. I was going to ask. I'll ask you the same question again, so we can get into it. Which is, who have you had conversations with or debates with in the Christian community, and what kind of people do you like to talk to?
Yeah.
What would be your ideal?
Sure. So I've the only I guess different opinion that I've appeared on a stream or had a conversation with so far would be Dr. Jonathan McClatchy. We just kind of wasn't a debate or anything. We just kind of talked about a little bit about my deconversion and some of the reasons why I left the faith, and he gave his thoughts on evidences for the resurrection. He made his case, and it was a good talk, and it was nice to meet him. And he saw like one of my first videos and left a comment. It seems like he kind of keeps up with a lot of the atheist YouTubers, and tries to have a lot of conversations with them, and it went pretty well. So I'm definitely not opposed to having more talks like that in the future.
Cool. Okay. Well, maybe I'm sure that's piqued Angelo's in mind for a moment, because you said you talked about the reasons for your deconversion. But what Christians do you think you'd like to talk to, or is there any that you found that are too difficult, or that kind of thing, or just pointless?
Well, I would say honestly, like some of the Christians who shared a lot of my experiences, in Christianity with like a more fundamentalist or literal interpretation of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones are really interesting because a lot of the questions that ran through my mind, I feel like will kind of hit them along the same kind of vibe. But I'm not really opposed to any sort of conversations, really.
And which kind of Christian were you, if I may ask, if that is a question that you can ask?
Yeah, I went to an Assemblies of God church, so I think that's more along the Pentecostal evangelical kind of Christianity. But I was homeschooled a little bit more strict than that. It had some Baptist influence and some other like that. So it was there's a little bit of a mix. So, but yeah, mainly that kind of Pentecostal.
That kind of sounds a little hardcore. Do you consider that hardcore Christianity, or?
I think so. Yeah, there was especially in the homeschooling, there was like a huge emphasis on like when you think
Bible
about
studies,
homeschoolers, you think about the denim skirts on all the girls, and all the boys have to tuck in their shirts, and like super strict like modesty and family values and this and that. Like everything is like completely literal from the Bible, and that was definitely over the top. And I kind of feel for some of the kids that are in that situation, but
yeah.
Can you see the private chat, Jake?
Yes.
Question from the audience there from Noxum. Jake has a video on his channel titled "My Deconversion Story." What does Jake regard as the most important part of that video? Noxum always has great chats. Noxum,
yeah.
you want to write me scripts and questions for interviews? No.
I would say, I don't know. I do know. I think it's just one line that I kind of threw out there, was that it's okay to say I don't know, to things that I guess you don't know. Yeah. like during my Christianity and deconversion, just my days as a Christian, there was always an answer for everything, pretty much. I guess that's maybe comes with the territory of this personal relationship with a God who created everything and knows everything. Maybe that stems from it, but just admitting that some things we just don't know yet, or maybe can't know or can't test, like that's okay. And that's something that when I came to realize that it's you know, it was pretty freeing to realize.
Yeah. I'm desperate to let Orthangelo ask a question because I can see his eyebrows going.
Yeah, we'll let Antangelo go next. We'll let Antangelo now. And if I can shout out, at the end of my last stream, because I said to everybody, I don't know if Jake realised this, I said that the audio was very important, and then my outro audio crashed. So I turned the background music up to cover my ass and forgot to turn it down. So the background music has been bouncing right up until there now. So I do apologise to the audience for that. It should be fine now. Everybody still should have been able to make out everyone. But Antangelo, floor is yours if you would like to ask Jake a couple of questions. So we will lean it towards you.
Give me your best reason why you have become an atheist.
I guess it kind of stems from what I answered to the earlier question, was just that, like, you know, that limited our knowledge and just not knowing. You know, I don't consider myself like a hard atheist or, you know, like a Gnostic atheist. I don't know however people describe it, but, you know, people who say like for certain, you know, there is no God. I'm kind of more along the lines of like, you know, I don't know, and I don't think I can prove it. You know, especially the God that I was raised to believe. So, you know, I just kind of, I don't accept, you know, the God claim that's been presented to me, and that's kind of the best way I can describe myself right now. But, you know, I understand that there's like a million ways to, you know, define the atheist label, and it always becomes a nightmare. I think I tweeted about that a couple of months ago, and it just went nuts in my replies and stuff. So, you know, it's a good question to ask though, like, because there's definitely a lot of nuance and room for specificity within that kind of label in general. But yeah, that's pretty much where I stand.
Yeah, someone in the side chat, I said, if you were a Christian and then started to doubt about the Christian faith and then became an atheist, I said that is, in my understanding, not a good reason to become an atheist. And then I don't remember who said it and said, well, you're actually wrong. If Christianity is falsified, then it is a good reason actually to become an atheist. And yes, I would say if it would be in an absolute sense, if there would be some hard evidence that Christianity is false, like finding the bones of Jesus, or some very consistent contradiction or something like that, then it would be good reason. I would agree with that. But if that is not the case, then I would say the main reason actually would be if you would have investigated the science, the natural world, origins questions, and then would have discovered that the no God hypothesis has more and better explanatory power than an intelligent creator, which instantiates everything. And I see it, I've basically very, very rarely seen an atheist using that approach and saying, because of this and that, I think that atheism has better and more explanatory power than theism.
Okay, so
if you want to respond, I'd like to just get in there and say that's fair enough, Angelo. That's a viewpoint, I suppose. But what reason do you have for believing that you don't believe in a God?
That's an interesting question. I would say that, you know, I starting from Christianity and, you know, my particular kind of like strain of Christianity, you know, just all the inconsistencies that I began to notice with the things that I used to believe, you know, especially the literal interpretations of, you know, biblical stories like Noah's flood and, you know, the Exodus and, you know, all these other things that like simply just couldn't have happened, or, you know, there's, you know, evidences of, you know, proofs to the alternative. Like those kind of things, you know, cast a lot of doubt in my mind about like the overall like authority of the Bible. And obviously there are like a lot of, you know, explanations of like, well, this is all to be taken metaphorically or this or that, which, you know, is one way to look at it. But, you know, that kind of led me to believe that, like, you know, I guess just to take a step back and look at the Bible, you know, a little bit more objectively than I had been before. So that kind of began me on this journey of, you know, looking further and questioning more of the Bible. And I think a lot of the like the questions, you know, for God, like the problem of evil and divine hiddenness, I think those are some of the bigger reasons now, like why I you know, ultimately kind of decided that, or came to the conclusion that, you know, this God I don't think I accept the claims to his existence.
Yeah,
Antonio,
I mean,
Antonio, I'm going to
which-
ask you if I can to just stop posting links in the. I don't know what the point of what you're doing is. You're just posting links in the side chat or in the private chat.
Of stuff. No, it's worse than that. It's stuff that academia has already completely squished.
Right. Well, it's the same
haven't
stuff that he's
answered
posted.
Anything academia says about any of that stuff, and you keep posting it in the private chat here.
There's no need for it.
When you come
Nobody is going to go and watch that. We are having a stream, and people are asking your opinion and what you think about something. So if you have to go and do, I'm not going to say it's the fallacy, appeal to an authority, or whatever the fuck it is. You're just posting stuff in the chat that nobody can go and look at. We're on a panel. There's no point to it, man. Either give us your opinion on what the conclusions were of that, or move on. Now, I said a couple of questions. I said a couple of questions. Simos got a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you one more out of respect, and then I'm going to move it on to Dave and Clockwork.
Yeah, I have actually to leave. I have to take someone at home. So I can be back in 20 minutes or half an hour if you like.
Jake
but
may not
to
be
answer,
here. We may still be going, but you're welcome back.
but just to answer, what you said to me is precisely what I see most. Let's say ex-Christians or atheists telling me that they started to scrutinize the Bible and then saw discrepancies and supposed contradictions, or starting to doubt about Noah's flood or all these kind of things, and then started to deconvert. So that's precisely what I described previously, what I see very frequently. But I would encourage you actually to look, if you are interested and really want to go to the bottom of the truth, to scrutinize scientific issues like origin of life, fine-tuning.
Okay, Antonio. Okay. Thank you. You said you had to run, and yep. Thank you very much. We will probably be going. Jake may not be here, but give me a shout back if there's a spot. We may have you back on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Yeah, those links are probably better saved for like a Twitter conversation or something. Some DMs. I always DMing with people on Instagram and Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. So
I
definitely
it's part of his script.
Just quickly. Yeah, that's fair enough. But just quickly, you presumably you have looked into some of those arguments, have you? Or at least
some of the links that were pasted and stuff. Or...
No. The ones you just mentioned: fine tuning, ontological, kalam. Yeah, of course you have. Yeah. I just wanted to get that acknowledgement on screen that it's not your first rodeo, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tangelo just got himself yeeted. Yeah,
sorry, I'll let you speak. Spot's opened up if anyone wants to join in. Scroll back up again. Don't make me go and fucking find the link again. I'm too lazy. This is the after party. We don't care. It's all wild. Clockwork, floor's yours, man.
It's around here somewhere, the link to the chat. But yeah, when Tangelo came in, he fucking goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And I just want to punch him in the throat. I mean, I know that sounds harsh.
Man, it's not. If anyone had heard me backstage, I literally said to him, I'm having a bad day. I will show bias. I'm going to fucking pick on you if you go off on a rant. But I don't want you going off on a rant. Don't be fucking doing that. It's not going to be you and Jake arguing.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And when he started posting all that shit in the private chat, I was like, God damn, here we go. Pig's going to get him. The pig's going to get him.
Yeah. I was just watching a video earlier today, not 2 hours ago, where he had called in. I think it was the Perspective, Ethan's show, and I was listening to all of his calls. But yeah, I've never spoken to him before. That was interesting. I'm sure you guys probably have a shorter fuse just because you probably have heard a lot of the same things. But
get him off his scripts.
Weekly with Antangelo. I do appreciate Antangelo coming around. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the conversation, and I will keep fighting with Antangelo because I know he's a decent enough guy, and I'm hoping that there is. I'm really not feeling it because he's starting to lean towards other side and other people, and I'm hoping. I'm hoping not to deconvert, but I'm hoping that he stop posting his script.
Yeah, he'll stop being a. Yeah,
even
but anyway,
Sky Out took a year. Sky Out took a whole fucking year, and he has ended up not too bad now. But he's better. He doesn't scream same as yours anymore.
Knock is in the YouTube chat because I've got that popped out up. And yeah, listen to his stream the other day when that Antangelo come in. He hijacked the whole stream, and it was fucking horrible.
But you see, that's the fucking right. But I make this statement, and then we'll go back to Jake on topic of Jake because we are limited time here, and I know we're just ranting. We'll wait till afterwards. We can rant all night. That is the point that I have tried to make earlier today on Twitter. Is giving these people attention is only forcing other people in their direction. It's giving them more attention. It's giving them more stature in that community. And if anything, we all know that American, especially, fundamentalism is growing. And that's what that stands for. And if we are pushing people in that direction, we're fucking up. If we're giving attention to that, we're fucking up. All right? And sometimes it's, I'll quote Stargate SG-1. What do you call the wee Harcesis child, Dave?
Oh, I forget.
The Harcesis child. Sometimes the only way to defeat evil is to not fight the battle.
Right. Well, it started out as a stream with Knock and Dr. Josh.
No, we're talking about Jake now. I was making a statement. Now we're going back to Jake.
Okay. Well, Jake looks like a fine young man.
Doesn't he? He's a nice, long lad.
Oh, shucks, thanks.
He's innocent.
He needs to learn to grow a beard, though.
Yeah.
Come on, you can do it.
I don't know.
You can do it. You can do it.
It gets a really kind of like all bunched up and curly when it's longer.
You got to brush it. You got to brush it, man.
I'm sure I could grow something decent if I put time into it, but this is just, it bothers me the least. If I shave it really short, like with a razor, it just breaks out and it makes me itch all over.
None of us are young enough for long enough, so there's no point in looking old. That would be mine.
One thing I did want to lean a wee bit towards more, I didn't get a chance to during the actual stream. We were talking about the previous girlfriend breaking up with you and then you meeting the wife. When you met the wife, she was fully atheist as well, yes?
Yeah, she's not a churchgoer. I mean, she's obviously not as like passionate as I am, but yeah, she doesn't believe in, I think she used to attend like a youth Lutheran church for a short period of time, but yeah, she never really bought it, and that's all I need.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't have any, there's no problems around like you both believe disbelief. Sorry.
No. We met online, and that was one of the filters that I made sure to check. Was I wanted somebody who wasn't a Christian, so I didn't run into that problem again.
Check that box.
Yeah.
I've seen her running around in the back of your other streams as well, so she's definitely not against it. She's not fucking internet thing. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. No, she's supportive, and I'm sure someday she'll jump on one of my videos or streams or something. But she was a little bit shy at first, but someday she'll come around.
No, well, that's good. That's good that you can mesh in that and get together and that and stuff. Over here, it's everyone's a fucking Christian, even cultural or not cultural. You don't really, I think it was Dave actually made fun of me, right? I've said this before. I'm a Protestant that grew up in a Catholic area, and a lot of my girlfriends have always been Catholic. And Dave asked me the other day, he's like, have you ever dated anything but a Catholic? I'm a Protestant, grew up in a Catholic area, man. What the fuck do you want me to fucking do? Like, it's not like I have a fucking... Wow. There's the internet. But
you can find Catholics there too.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. But the Catholics on the internet really love the Pope a lot.
Who doesn't love a man in a dress? That's all I'm saying.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, I remember MathPig talking about there's Protestant atheists and Catholic atheists over there. Yeah, that kind of.
Right, that's the second time in 3 days that's been asked on stream. Come on, people, come on, the fuck, like, all right. Money wind you up, clock.
Well, I mean, I just heard you say it.
I'm already pushing maths. So let's stop that. Let's go back to Jake. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Jake,
that's good.
From your Christian education, from your Christian homeschooling, what do you think, other than the science, because it's a very obvious thing, it jumps out at you when you actually walk out into the real world that a lot of shit they tell you in creationism is bullshit. Other than that, is there something that you were taught in Christian in the homeschooling that you realized after your deconversion that you were like, something small, maybe personal to you or whatever? You get the point I'm trying to make. Not as big and giant as the sky's blue or something like that. But
the first thing that comes to mind is obviously like their take on sexuality and just that whole like, you know, nothing before marriage kind of approach. That, you know, obviously it's not like a scientific or, you know, it loosely kind of ties into school. It's, you know, it was like half school, half just reading the Bible kind of nonsense. But yeah, that was one thing that, you know, that was, I think I kind of broke that even before I deconverted. Like, our family had stopped going to church for a little bit because my brother was sick, and it was a couple of months where I was just kind of like stuck at home, never going to church for Sunday after Sunday. And I was like, you know, it was that kind of common, you know, young person guilt cycle of, you know, like masturbation, and then you'd be like, oh, I hate myself, Jesus forgive me and I'll do better. And then it's like, I guess during that period I was like, I'm just gonna like not give a shit for a little bit, you know. I'm just gonna like treat this as any other thing, you know. It's like, what if I did that? And so I did, and I realized that like after only a couple of weeks, like treating it as just a normal thing like any other activity, like it really lost a lot of that power, like a lot of that, you know, like that, what is it, there's probably like a psychological term for it, but it's like when people tell you don't think of like an elephant, that's the first thing that pops into your mind, you know. And I got rid of that, and it like this whole like guilt cycle just stopped. Really,
it's, you know, it's not strange, but it's poignant something that you would say that. I mentioned the guy that I work with, you know, earlier today in the stream or whatever, and that particular guy is about 50 or so, like works at work, and one of the guys come over the day, and he, you know, they've literally got a guy in the store cleaning out shit, and he has to sit with a pole and do this all day, right? And obviously somebody's going to make a fucking joke about it, you know?
Yeah.
He's sitting doing this for 2 hours. He's poor wee fucking lad. He's only about 17. He's sitting doing this, you know? And someone's going to make a joke about it. And that particular guy who was the Christian or whatever got really freaked out about it, you know? And it was like, no, wanking and this here and all that there shit. This guy's, you know, at least 50. And, you know, the boys were like, oh, sorry, and then one of them wound him up and shit like that there, and I just turned him and I was like, Raymond, if you say you've never wanked before in your life, you're just a fucking liar. And I just walked away, like, you know, it was, but he did at that age. It's so ingrained, it's so pushed in, like, you know, it's not a choice, it's not forced, well, it is slightly forced upon you, it's more guilt than forced upon you, but it's not like you can just switch it off. It's really thumped in there, like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Basically, it's been chiseled in stone at that point. Yeah.
No pun intended.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to curiosity to say, did you have resentment for the indoctrination that you suffered as a child, or do you consider it suffering, or how did you get over that if you did? Have you gotten over it? I mean,
I don't know. I think I feel like I did miss out on a little bit of, you know, like other kids' experiences, but, you know, I definitely agree that it was indoctrination. You know, it's like, how could you possibly know or learn any different, you know, when it's your parents that are giving you this kind of information and teaching you nothing but this. But yeah, I don't think I may have been bitter for a little bit, but I don't really hold on to that. I think I'm just kind of like focusing on, you know, what I can control and making sure that my future, and, you know, if I have kids, that they'll have a better childhood than I did, you know, one that's a little bit more based on reality and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I felt the need to not snap at my mum again the day, but she was telling me a story when she was lifting my daughter there last Friday. We were talking about music, this, that and the other, and then getting out of the car, and my wee girl did something, and my mum was like, yeah, and I turned to her and I was like, we girls don't do that. And I was like, we girls can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, it's, can you not, like, it's, if you don't want her to do it, say, Elena, don't do that. Yeah. Don't make the definition of this, that and the other, you know. It's just, it's the way it is. And she was like, I'm very sorry, Robbie, I'm old-fashioned, I'm fucking trying. So shout out to poor Granny, she does try. So, and she's a spiritual Christian, as I would refer to her, but she's trying.
Good. So what did you draw upon within yourself to get past the stage of being resentful or bitter towards the indoctrination that happened to you? Just for other people that may be suffering, you know, that's what I'm thinking of, the angle I'm thinking of.
That's I don't know, I'll have to think about that for a second, but you know, I definitely did have, you know, that angry atheist phase where I, you know, kind of resented, you know, my parents and church leaders and this kind of thing for teaching me this. But I think the realization that, you know, they're not actively trying to deceive you, and that they sincerely believe this just as much as you did in the past, and a little bit of empathy for where they're at as well. You know, kind of goes a long way. Like, just kind of, you know, admitting and realizing that they did their best with, you know, what they knew at the time, and what they may still believe, and that's, you know, like, appreciate the good things that you got out of it, you know, because there are good things to take away from, you know, like I learned a really good work ethic, which, you know, I really appreciate my dad for giving me that. And, you know, it wasn't like beaten into me or anything like that. It was just kind of like the example that he set, which, you know, obviously doesn't require religion, you know, specifically, but like maybe focus on the good things, and, you know, be thankful for those, and, you know, just try and work to make sure that, you know, the mistakes or the, you know, the inconsistencies or, you know, the falsehoods that you were taught as a kid don't happen in your future.
Perceived falsities, and I would also say, of course, that just to add in that this didn't happen to me, but presumably you would agree that, of course, it's most likely they themselves were indoctrinated as well. And really what you're doing is breaking a chain of behavior, which
most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, is it not almost certain?
Well, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible here, Dave. From my perspective, absolutely, it's certain. But I don't know, because I was never indoctrinated. I'm lucky in that way. I was allowed to make up my own mind, and as soon as I did, I went, I'm an atheist. So.
Yeah, I know my mom was raised somewhat Catholic. My grandparents are Catholic, but I don't think they're too seriously practicing. And my dad never really grew up religious, but I think, you know, after him and my mom got married, they kind of, something happened. I honestly had never really had a really deep conversation with them about why they kind of personally came to Christianity. But yeah, I think, what was I going to say? Yeah, I guess, you know, like that empathy that I talked about a little bit earlier, for their position, you know, whether they were indoctrinated into it or not, but just kind of like realizing that, you know, being angry and lashing out at your parents may, you know, may work, you know, against the possibility of them considering your thoughts and the questions that you have, and, you know, maybe would limit the chances of them, you know, considering your perspective or having constructive conversations in the future. So, you know, that's one thing that I've had to learn as well, that I don't want to burn that bridge with my parents. You know, I don't think they'll ever, you know, come to the position where I'm at, but I think, you know, there's, at least if they understand a little bit more of where I'm at, and that I'm not, you know, a Satan worshiping, child sacrificing atheist.
Oh, you're not?
Oh.
Oh, well, I was really getting to like him. Like,
yeah, damn.
Oh no, I'm sorry, guys.
I was my next question,
babies.
I
mean,
mean,
come on.
I was just distracting from the fact I had to clean my screen and not wanted to pay attention to it. So that's why I kicked him.
My next question was going to be, so what's your best recipe for baby sauce? But okay.
Well, yeah. Barbecue.
Okay.
It's barbecue. The answer is always barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's another good point you kind of brought up in a way, which was to say that, of course, when parents or when families first get together, that's quite often a good incentive for them to become religious, because of the fact of acceptance in a community with which they can bring their children up in, which goes to show another psychological pressure which is applied to children.
Yeah. And there seems to be like a lot of support networks within Christianity and stuff, just for, you know, new families and that kind of thing, for, you know, pregnant mothers, that kind of thing. They really focus a lot on that. And so I'm sure a lot of people may not realize what they're getting into at first, and then, you know, they find themselves converting.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the oldest things, I think, of acceptance of changing church doctrine is that of single mothers. You know, you go back to the 1800s, and there was.
Shout out to poor Granny. She did give us a choice, and I think it was just easy on her because the fucking church would come and pick you up in their minibus. She didn't have to actually go herself, but she did encourage critical thought. The first book that I can remember her buying me was 500 Questions and Answers, and I have a copy that she bought me later in life. as a reminder, actually up the stairs. It's not the first one she bought me, but she did buy me another one, and it's up in the attic. She used to buy me
I'm
Hardy
slightly disturbed that she did. Again, we spent a couple of hours the other night you showing me where you grew up. And I am surprised that she did not indoctrinate you just to keep you fucking alive.
You actually remembered that? Was it that poignant that it stuck in your memory? I woke up the next morning going, it's grand, it's Dave, he'll forget. We've got Jake for like 5 more minutes.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I probably should get back to work soon.
Yeah, so if Jake, we'll let him do the floor, and then you can go down that route, Dave, and it'll be more after party sort of stuff on the channel and stuff. So Jake, is anything you would like to add, or anything you would like to ask us now, getting to know us a little bit more since the last stream? A whole 40 minutes maybe. According to my time, we're at 63 seconds. We only started, but
I guess, is there any advice you might have for someone like me who's just kind of trying to figure out YouTube
brilliant,
and the atheist
absolutely
community?
brilliant. Right, well, that's what we'll do. Any advice for Jake moving forward as a YouTuber? Shut up, Dave, you're last. As a YouTuber, now, because you spoke first, you're now last. Is there any advice any of us would give Jake as a YouTuber, and taking into account the atheism and stuff like that there with conversations going forward? We'll start with Clockwork because you just come in, so I'll give you the floor.
I would just tell you, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Take it.
Oh, that's not. Oh, right. I thought you were making a joke.
That's the first thing. Always switch your mic on.
Yeah. Fuck off.
Fair enough.
Twice
Fair
tonight.
enough.
Twice tonight.
Just take it slow and try not to get overwhelmed by all the shit that you hear on YouTube, because there will be a lot of it.
Yeah.
A whole lot of it. You just got a taste with Tangelo.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of shit like that. Just take it slow.
Gotcha.
Use your brain. You know, reason it through, and keep going forward.
Okay.
Ever forward, like they said in the army.
That's great.
That's all I got.
Same old.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let me just get my my latest book out here, and I'll just read some of the chapters to you. No, you know, basically, there's lots of advice I could give to you, but mainly I think you've got most of it, which is to be patient. Not react to people's passive aggressiveness, because that's a common tactic used in the community. Is somebody will say, yeah, but you're just and then, you know, they'll expect you to bite on that, which is never really worth it. So try to keep emotions out of the debates or the conversations. That helps. And then lastly, don't expect to change the people's mind that you're talking to. That's a dream that just doesn't happen very often at all. Maybe one
content for them.
You'll remember that you're actually talking to the people that are listening, the people that aren't emotionally invested in that particular conversation, but may take something away from it. And that's really the target audience, not the person you're talking to. And then thirdly, don't be surprised when you get misrepresented by the people that you are talking to.
Gotcha.
That happens a lot as well. So
as always, Simos with words of wisdom. Simos was in the community as long as I'm now in the community, whenever you'd joined, and Simos was in as long as that beforehand. So he's heard it all. Dave, you're allowed to speak now.
You're so kind. Right, general YouTube advice. Regularity is more important than quality, unfortunately.
Okay.
There you go. Short and sweet, and straight with the tech talk. And what I was going to say is, if you find yourself ranting, if you find yourself being emotional, if you find yourself reacting, stop, count to 30, start again. With patience brings focus. And I never listen to myself.
Good advice from Pig that he never takes.
I am fucking trying. I'm fucking trying, okay? I'm fucking trying. Right,
I have an inverse relationship with people that want to wind me up, right? The more you want to wind me up, the less I'll get wound up, right? And the less you want to wind me up, probably the more I'll get wound up, right? Yeah. But occasionally some people push me past the point, and then, you know, oh, well, there you go. And fortunately, it's the internet, so most people forget anyway pretty quickly.
I'm going to give you one other piece of advice in conversation, I would say, that, again, I failed to do, and Simos kind of touched on it. You don't need to answer their questions. Answer the question that you want to answer. If that makes, again, you're not talking to them, you're talking to your audience.
Sure.
And they try and force you down corridors.
Yeah.
Force you down paths. And they're not conversations that are worth having, because at the end of them, a lot of them are just, we don't know.
Exactly. I was getting ready to say that.
Well, that
I
actually
don't know is an acceptable answer.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
That actually brings something up just quickly as well, which I'd like to mention, which is this difference between the atheist definitions, right? Hard atheist, soft atheist. Many times, Christians will only accept somebody being a hard atheist. And I could see on Othangelo's tongue today when you were saying, well, I reject the God because of the Bible. Right? That is the classic, right? That's an absolute classic, because, of course,
really sorry,
they're not
no,
not defining God. Go ahead.
No, I was just, I literally can't remember anything Otangelo said earlier at all, except that he actually had to go and pick someone else up, because that was the only point of the conversation that was actually worthwhile listening to and hearing. I can't actually remember anything he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Using the same script over and over again.
But many Christians will do this when they start losing a conversation. If you talk about the Bible, they'll move it off the Bible to a deistic or a classical theism. And if you don't have arguments against classical theism, then they'll say they've won the debate and they'll go away quite happy. You know, and it's a very common tactic. And if you're not talking about it, right, if you're not talking about what they want to talk about, they think they've won. And if you try and hold them to their feet to the fire by saying, no, I'm talking about this particular thing in the Bible, so that's the God I'm talking about, then they'll go, well, you know, but you say you're an atheist, therefore you believe that no gods exist.
Yeah.
And that's the bait and switch that they'll do quite often. So just watch out for that one. And when they switch it like that, just recognize it's been switched and just go, no, I'm only talking about the Bible, God, or whichever God you want to talk about.
Yeah.
There are plenty of good arguments to be a hard atheist, and there are plenty of good arguments against classical theism and deism and pantheism. But it takes a long time to get all of those under your belt and be able to just reel them off as if they're second
Question
nature.
in the private chat, if I can, do bring attention to it, because I've had a lot of love for Noxum. They're a very good supporter of the channel. Would Jake recommend a deconversion service provided by humanists? So, well, that was an example.
I don't know.
Like provided by humanists.
I don't think I've ever
You can't say
heard of
watch
those
YouTube
or
atheists.
used those. I don't really know. I don't think I've ever even heard of that. Is that like kind of like recovering from religion, maybe?
Freedom from religion. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Talking about like secular humanist, atheist, activist kind of organizations, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, just be patient and find where your niche is and where you fit in, and then you'll be good to go.
Yeah,
certainly look into what the humanist philosophy is, and that's always worth something, because of course atheism isn't a pro stance. It's not why we believe. It's not. I don't think it's the case that we have it as a positive belief for our goals in life, because it's a negative.
Not a worldview
in that sense.
Exactly,
Worldview. It's a horrible word anyway.
But
that doesn't mean you can't find a good worldview, you know. So whatever you see
I
fit.
can't even get the mute button. Oh.
Anyway, that's me done. So I'll say. I'll just say the one thing GeoSam said in the chat, which is make sure you understand the difference between an internal critique and an external critique, because that also comes up a lot in conversations.
Yeah, if somebody else is critiquing you, fuck that person. You've got to do it inside. You've got to figure out what's going on within you.
Gotcha.
That's an internal critique. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the best kind of way to do it anyway. Like, you can't really force somebody to reevaluate their position. They'll probably just end up getting defensive, right? Like,
sure.
And that kind of goes back to that whole, like,
but that's what you'll get from religious people. Well, that's what you'll get from religious people all over YouTube. They will externally try to critique you.
Yeah,
and
I've had a couple comments like that.
Just be like, no, your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah,
and there are atheists out there that will also challenge you on your
Well,
version
yeah.
of atheism. Of course, we tend to ignore them quite a
Okay.
lot. But there are a few out there that are just dogmatic and fundamentalists, and for the
Okay.
same
Sure.
reason that you ignore Christian fundamentalists, then
Yeah.
it's probably worth ignoring the atheist fundamentalists as well.
Not
Sure.
worth the time.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, there we go.
that,
That's me
yes.
done. I will shut up now, Bath.
We've dragged it out for another 10 minutes longer than he should have. So,
No, that's okay.
uh,
I appreciate all the advice, though.
if I can say, Jake, thank you very much for coming. It's been a wonderful chat. Really, really has. We'll probably keep going for a wee while. But,
Okay.
yeah, thank you very much for coming. And if anyone
thank
hasn't
you.
seen the channel, links in the description, YouTube, his website, you know, getting the brand in, doing that well. And
Thanks.
I'm going to ask you again, knowing that you don't, just to put you under pressure to think up of one. Have you any
Oh, yeah.
tagline you would like to say before you leave, Jake?
Actually, there is one that
Oh, we
somebody
thought of one.
commented.
There we go. Right.
No, somebody commented on it. I can't take credit for this. I don't remember off the top of my head who commented and left it for me. So I'll give credit maybe in my next video or something. But they threw out there for me, for God's sake, ask questions. And that one sounded pretty good.
That's original, man. That's not a rip off like mine at all. That's really good. Like, no, I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put
that's
that
a
on your
good one.
website with a copyright symbol beside it quickly.
Oh, yeah. Do I have to add that now?
Quickly. Right, Jake. As I said, thank you very much for coming. And we
Thank
will
you.
probably ramble on now for a wee while. And
Awesome.
if you get a chance at work, feel free to stay in the live chat or whatever and hang about. And yeah, I promise we won't talk about you behind your back. Not at all.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
I'll
Jake
definitely-
seems like a good guy. I hope he gets
Yeah.
gets it all the way he needs to get it. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'll make sure I'm following you guys on social media if you guys have those. But yeah, this would be. It's
no,
great
I
to
don't
meet you
use
guys.
Twitter. I don't use Twitter.
Okay.
That's
Everybody's got a YouTube channel, so
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Yeah,
I
I'll
do
run
not
through the
have-
chat and I'll
I
follow you
definitely
guys.
don't have 14 MathPigs.
This was an awesome chat though, and thanks again for all the questions and the
You
advice.
just
and-
run, Jake. Run. Just run. Say bye.
Yeah.
Run.
All right.
Just run.
we'll see you soon.
The only other
Get out
choice I
now.
have is
Get
to
out
end
now
the
while you
stream.
can.
The only other choice I have to end the conversation is end the stream, you know? So it's like, I don't want to end the stream. It's
Yeah,
Thanks for coming, Jake.
awesome. No
See you
segue.
later.
Just click and leave.
Just, yeah,
See you later,
yeah.
guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Get out while you can. Yeah. there you go.
Yeah.
man.
Oh, typical atheist runs away.
Right.
Oh,
Somebody pick a number between 1 and 4. 1 and 4.
4,
No.
3.
One.
Right, Samos. There you go. Samos said 3. He was the first person to say 3, so he goes in the big square. Samos, you're now the guest in the big square.
Ah, well, there we go.
All focus on you, Samos.
Okay, welcome everybody.
So how's your, you know, who was
Did
making...
you not have? Wait, I have a thing. I have
No,
a question
Dave,
for
we're putting
the person
Dave in the big square. That's right, sorry.
Yeah,
No.
put Dave in there. Yeah, put Dave in
We're
there. Why
putting
not?
Dave in there because...
I have a question for Simos.
Okay, quickly, and then we'll swap you around because we were going to talk about how I survived living where I survived. That's what you were talking about.
Okay.
How did you avoid being indoctrinated? How did you? I thought did you not go to public school?
No, my father was an atheist, and he refused to let my mum bring us up as Christians.
That was me. That's me.
It's
That's me.
rare to find someone in the UK that's as I said. I'm assuming you're older than me, but I could be wrong.
Probably.
To find someone my age that didn't go through at least basic.
Yeah, no, as I said, we moved to Canada when I was 7, something like that, and I'd never even considered the question. And then once I got to Canada, I remember hearing about God for the first time consciously, and I just went, well, that's bullshit. So went to my mum and said, hey, I've worked out that God doesn't exist. And she went, oh, well, why is that then? And I went, oh, it's just not needed. And I've been an atheist ever since, you know.
See, I think it's one of those things. If we could ban indoctrination,
Oh, yeah.
it would probably fix it.
Yeah, but again, I mean, some of why I worked that out was because the person that explained Christianity to me wasn't that religious either. right? And my teacher, I asked my teacher about it, and you know, I quoted something from the Canadian national anthem, which was particularly racist, and she couldn't defend it. So yeah, I basically you know, went, well, she's talking shit, and if that adult's talking shit, then maybe others are too. And because I hadn't had any of the stuff from, you know, from home, I just sat and was able to sit and work it out on my own without any pressure. And then I just kind of went, well, actually, it looks like the world runs by itself, and that's a simpler explanation than invoking something running the world. So, and that was that, really. I was very lucky. My mum's a Christian. She wanted me to try Christianity, and I did for her sake when I got back to England. And yeah, the only reason I wanted to try it was because there was a nice blonde girl that went there. So once I got,
there was that then.
yeah,
Okay.
so once I got off with her, I just went, well, there's no need for Christianity anymore then.
Was she the Frank Zappa song cat?
No,
another
it's
reason,
the
Dave.
Church of England.
That's another reason, Dave.
Church of England. She was a ballet student, and yeah, I kind of went, oh, okay, so got off with her. She didn't want to see me after that, so I was like, oh, there's no point in going there then.
Right, so we will swap you then.
Right,
with
over
Dave.
to you, MathPig. Yep.
Oh, where am I going? No, do that again, and then we're going to click on Dave and move him up. There you go. Dave's in the big screen now. Right. What about me being a proud atheist? What are you talking about?
Growing up, I mean, people don't appreciate. How old were you when the Good Friday Agreement was signed?
The Good Friday Agreement was what, your 1990?
God,
98.
98, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, well, I'm born 1983, so I'm 15.
Right. So up until that point, the Troubles are in full force.
A good force
And
of it.
What?
A fair amount of force.
And your mother makes the decision to fuck with everyone and not go with the side that you're growing up around.
No, my mum was very cross community. My mum was, and considering if I showed you where my mum grew up, man, it's actually like some places don't even. In my mum's generation is when they got electric out into the sticks of this place. It's that Protestant like. That's where she grew up in. And she didn't I have a bayonet. Is it a bayonet? Long sword on the end of a rifle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I have a bayonet that I think is got 1894 written on it, and from my memory, it's got something like CHAT written on the side in French, which is in reference to a cat, which I have no idea what it's gonna. No idea, but it's something, right? And that's inside the shed at the bottom of my mum's garden. Now, she inherited that from my grandfather, which would be her father, and there was literal riots going on outside their house, you know, when she was growing up, and somebody her dad, somebody maybe broke the fence or whatever. It was getting out of control. So my grandfather, who died when I was 1, so I can't remember, but he went out into the middle of this crowd and came back 45 minutes later with a bayonet. You know, nobody knows.
What?
This is where this came from.
Fair enough.
Yep.
It just doesn't. It just seems odd that you go out into a riot and come back with a weapon.
Well, maybe somebody tried to attack you and fucking kill you, and you could have bait them in the face and took it off them. Now that's just me talking. There's no.
You see, this is the thing I don't. I know so little about bayonets. Is that not a risk always? If you're somebody trying to attack someone with a bayonet, that they'll just pull it off the end of your gun.
I literally know a guy that I used to live beside that attacked somebody, fucking wankered off his face against somebody who was stone cold sober, and he thought going into the house to get his fucking 110-pound samurai sword off the wall that he thought was great and attack this guy. And this guy literally punched him in the face, took the samurai sword off him, and the guy that owned the house had to jump in his mate's car and drive the fuck away from his own house because this crazy man, well, it was the drunkard was the crazy, the other guy was in the right, sat outside his house for about 2 hours with his own samurai sword waiting for the guy to come back. Like,
fair enough.
I know a guy that didn't arrive one night because I was like, "What did you do the other night?" And we'll call him, we'll call him Mr. C for Catholic. And it was like sitting at the bottom of the stairs with a shotgun to make sure that people didn't come through the front door to get my man me, because his dad was his dad, and his dad was out of town, so people thought that they could get at the family, and he's sitting at the bottom of the stairs with his dad's shotgun.
I know, totally sidetrack.
People don't get what it's like or what it was like in Northern Ireland. And I know that whenever all this shit that we see over the recent Easter weekends and stuff that I promoted on the channel with a wee video I did is, people are looking at that and, it is what it is and it's a wee rat and it died down again. But, the reason I was putting that out there and the reason that I got emotional during the live stream that we did is this is the shit that I remember, man. This is the shit that actually went on. I've scars on my body from getting hit in the face with a glass bottle for standing beside someone who grew up in my mum's area. That his mum and my mum were like second cousins. He grew up from out in that place where there was no electric, and he had a name, and it was who he was. And I was in that group sort of in high school because I had to fucking go to them for fucking protection. I had like fucking 20 Catholics walk up to me one day because I called one of them a big-eared fucker in class one time, and he did have stick-out ears. He eventually did get the surgery where they pinned them back, but he'd stick-out ears and he'd give me shit, so I told the big-eared cunt to fuck off. So he turns up...
You're only 150 or so miles away from me across water.
As the crow flies.
I find it disturbing that through this time period of me growing up, all I knew about this, really, was that we weren't allowed to have bins outside. All our bins outside were sealed up.
My nanny, right, which would be my father's mother, lived as the crow flies about just over 2 mile, driving 3 mile away from me, right? And we had to go through 2 checkpoints to get to my nanny's house. Now, you could take the back roads and you'd only have to go through one, but you had to go through one. It was literally at the entrance to the village. And the mill, which used to make linen, was converted into an army barracks. And because my dad used to be in the Territorial Army, we would always get flashed through because he wouldn't show his driver's license, he'd show his TA license. And I always remember going in through that one because, I don't give a fuck. It was Brook, that's what it's called, right? B-R-E-B, or whatever. The brook has 2 O's in it. And what the army boys used to do is they took a police cone and they put it on the top of it and they hung 2 wee fake legs and drew eyes in the 2 O's of the brook. It was that laid back and that funny, and it wasn't. It was a necessary thing that needed to be done, but it took the edge off it, so to speak. That's why I got to sit in the Chinook. It was only like 5 foot off the ground, but I got to sit in the Chinook. That was fun, but
that makes it all worth it.
Man, you can drive through the middle of the day. Do you know what they do in the middle of the day since it's all closed down? They sell carpet. They've turned it into housing development, a couple of spare units, and a big giant fucking carpet place. But yeah, I don't want that shit to come back. Definitely not. When that bomb went off in Londonderry, Legendary Derry, whatever the fuck you want to call it, last year, the mother of my child and my child were less than a mile away when it went off. Kids had walked past that when it went off. Before it went off, sorry. Depending on the timing and stuff. It's... Last year there was a massive one in fucking that particular, we'll call it whatever it is. And, like, people were getting pulled out of their cars and stuff. It's... They did a recruitment drive at the very fucking highest point of the city and spray painted maybe 30 foot long on a wall. A recruitment fucking come here. This is where you,
It sounds fun. I need to answer Noctum's question. How would we determine indoctrination from religion? And I actually have a genuine problem with this question. Because it's the reason I don't consider myself a humanist. Because I actually consider indoctrination to be something that is probably, I'm going to go with amoral. that I think we need to indoctrinate kids, or I think we are better to indoctrinate kids.
Yeah, that's why I don't like indoctrination as a fucking word. Right? Because there's, because indoctrination can be used for good, but then who defines good? And then you end up on that question. Educate the kids, teach them to think for themselves. That you can't go wrong with. Just that statement you can't go wrong with. And then Simos jumps in and goes, "You fucking."
You can't do that though. So the problem you've got is what you accept as being education now. Some of that, especially the younger stuff, has to be indoctrination because they cannot understand it at a certain age. And that doesn't mean to say you're not going to go back later and teach them what it means.
Yeah.
But
GCSE
you are
chemistry versus
categorically
A-level
telling me-
chemistry. Everything you learned before is bullshit. Now this is the truth. Go back and fix it later.
Yeah, and I mean it's like that in education as well. I mean, even later parts of education, they simplify the subject in order to get the basics across, and then teach you the real stuff when you get to higher and higher levels.
And I watched the thing
at
with-
every level.
And I can't remember who it was, and it may have just been a random fucking channel or whatever. I think is it Cool Worlds? It may have been Cool World. I can't remember what it was, where he discussed the fact of the problem with that, right? Because, excuse me, whenever you're taught for, say, toxic, I'm going to really bland it down and broad brush and make it very simple. You're taught for, say, toxic, 3 years of a particular very simple way to understand, say, gravity, right? We'll use that as an example. You've got the ball in the sheet and you've been taught that and that's the way it is and all that. And then you get down a different route where you're actually given the equation. You've been thinking of it visually, you're taught a different way. Being taught something really simple for a couple of years trains your mind to think a particular route. Then when you go to think about the hard stuff, your natural intuition is very hard to overcome because it's been ingrained in you. And this particular person, whom I can't remember what it was like, you should give them a glimpse of the real harder stuff, every now and again early on. Don't go down the complete route of real simple, because it's real simple, then you're taught something's different. Then it's real simple, you're taught something's different. Give them a glimpse and let them know of the particular route, the particular way of thinking from a higher point of view. And I'm just such a fantastic daddy. I was talking about tardigrades with my wee girl the other day. We spent like a whole fucking 45 minutes on tardigrades, although we are now calling them water bears because it's cuter, according to her. But teach them this sort of stuff young. Get them inquisitive. Get them there should be no limits. If they don't understand it, it's there. They may not get it the first time round. You tell them again later. You don't need to dumb it down so they understand. They will grasp it. If you give them enough time, even at the harder level, they will grasp it. Oh, I nearly said his particular name. I was feeling that happy after such a bad day. But we'll go, Europa Bumhole. Nice to see you.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to, of course, is a word anyway. If we don't use indoctrination, we may use dogma or several other words, and I guess MathPig is absolutely right. It's down to critical thinking, but of course that's presuming a worldview in itself. So I don't think there is any coherent way to answer that question.
If I can
other
just jump
than
in,
say,
just on what you're talking about now, because
go ahead.
Before I lose my trail of thought, I have been smoking a lot tonight, and Dave. Right? As Simos is saying, it's all about promoting critical thinking. You're saying indoctrinate because we don't want them to think the other side. We don't want them to realize this. And
No.
Right?
I'm saying that you get there. There is a lot of things that
define indoctrination. Then
I would say. Oh, see this.
You see?
Yeah, well, this is the problem. I would say indoctrination.
You
is
can't
teaching-
define the word that you prefer to use. This is the problem I have with it. Oh my God, we've turned into fucking Steve.
Well, I think there is
no
some
one's
way.
disagreeing.
There is some way.
No,
when,
let him
when we're
define.
saying-
Let's see if Dave can give us 2 minutes actual
okay.
definition, and not a year and a half from what I've seen at least. Right?
The process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically.
I swear to fuck, I heard your keyboard type before that. Did you look that up?
Oh yeah, like I'd structure a sentence like that.
Exactly. Say it again, please, when I'm actually listening.
Right. There are two definitions. The process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically, right? With the second definition being teaching/instruction.
Right. Now, the second one, I disagree with 100% because that's not indoctrination, that's education. All right. Indoctrination in the context of what the colloquial version that we are using in this community and when people take it is the one without questioning. Teaching other kids or teaching people or a group of people to believe something without question is indoctrination. Right? So you're using that term, and that's the term. So as I say, Samos is saying critically think, let them think for themselves, and you were saying indoctrination because, you know, it's going to make them think something without questioning it. So
I'm
you
saying
definitely
that there
aren't
is
going to
place.
teach. Now, let's going to make it personal. You are definitely not going. I'm going to slap Europa. You're definitely not going to teach, or did not teach your children, creationism.
No.
No. Did you promote evolution, or you know, you were in that field of mind, or you know, trees and no, you were not a Christian. You did not raise them in a Christian belief. So if you wanted to indoctrinate them, you're going to indoctrinate them in what we believe, and that comes down to not what we believe. She's your child. We have no point in this. It's what you believe, and I disagree with you in some things. Clockwork does, so does Samos. You know, as when it goes to mitosis over, I was going to say maximatosis, we want to have our offspring to be different. That's why I don't like the word indoctrination, and why I prefer education and critical thinking, because I do not want to replicate a clone of myself. I want to replicate another life that has the best
You're missing
of me.
my point here.
I'm not missing your
completely.
point because you used that definition and you're tied into it because you fucking looked it up on Wikipedia. You should have made your own up. Should have made your own up. Should have made your own up. With no.
Make my own up. Okay, I'll make my own up.
No, but you know what I mean. You should have been more specific with your own words and being pedantic and winding you up, but you get the point.
I don't have a good definition. Is the point.
Exactly.
This
This is the point I'm making. There's a problem with the word. Use education instead.
the point is
No, this
is
no,
that-
no. There is no point. I give in on atheist agnostic, and I became an atheist because you're a dick in your definition, just to shut you up. Are you gonna do the same just because you love me? No.
Tell me that you need to understand everything. I'm not saying teaching critical thinking is still the key.
Sorry, you literally cut out. You said critical thinking is literally the
key.
The key.
It is still the golden standard that you need to teach. What I am saying is that there are things that you can teach more faster by indoctrination at a lower level. Right? You take maths as an example.
So we're going to extend that statement and say that the ends justifies the means. Okay, go on ahead.
I'm not. All I'm saying is that you.
It should be done the right way, not the fastest way, is my opinion. But go on ahead.
What's the right way? That every single thing is questioned. That you need to question every single thing you are taught.
Do you how long did your child live under your roof where you would see them on a regular daily basis?
Until she was 18.
Till she was 13. You cut out again.
18.
18, right. So you have guts of 20 years of them under your roof. Do you not think the basics, right? Now, you know what I mean by the basics. I'm not going to go into the, but you get the point I'm trying to go. We're going colloquial here in broad brush. You know, they don't need to question everything. It's not like they're going to question why is the sky blue and this, that, and the other. That's all toddler stuff. By the time they're 18, going through their education.
No, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about when they're 18. I'm not talking about when they're fucking 15.
Yes, but you're
12.
saying to indoctrinate them for speed. And I'm saying that there's no fucking need to, because by the time they're 18, they're going to have asked these naturally anyway. Oh my goodness, we're trying to have a parenting row.
You're saying they will have asked them naturally by that point, and you are correct.
Yeah.
Right? But the point at which you are teaching them, the point at which they are 5, 6, 7,
love the way you've switched definitions now. Thank you,
Have I switched
Simon, for
definitions?
making me the point to point that out and listen for when people switch definitions. But yeah.
Indoctrination is instillment of information.
The first one didn't include teaching. The second one did. Well, the second one was more teaching, and you've fuck off. Just make your point. Wind me up.
My point is that you, especially when they are younger, you need them to accept things because it forms a framework of knowledge.
Right. Now, the
Because
way that you say that, if I can,
But at the end of the day, we don't fucking know. Basically, the entire of our existence, we cannot demonstrate if you take it down to that level. And you can't teach that straight away. You have to be able to have them accept things.
Right, you see, this is
As
it.
they are.
I just don't like your fucking phrasing, right? I really don't like your phrasing. It's the way we have to get them to accept things, right? Obviously, we want them to accept things. But I don't have to have my daughter agree with me. I want her to agree with me on the scientific and the facts and stuff like that. And we're not going to define about this, that, and the other. But I agree with what you're trying to convey. I disagree with your statements. And again, when it comes, and again, you're obviously a parent, you've had this, and you're bound to have experienced this. Your daughter or your son or wherever they are, they ask you a question, you give them an answer. It's not like when they asked you, where did the monkey come from? You explained evolution, and then you also said, but there's also this other people that think this group of stuff about creation. You didn't. You just said, this is evolution. And they went, oh, thanks very much, Daddy. And they took it on board. There's no having to. They have the confidence in you already. You don't need to use indoctrination.
But you're describing, if it's going in uncritically, you are describing indoctrination.
No, uncritically, right? No, I don't like. Again,
This is my point here.
I'm sorry, but uncritically does not mean that I have to mention fucking creationism when I'm talking.
No,
about
it doesn't
evolution.
mean you have to mention it. It means that you are a trusted authority, that the information that you are providing...
Oh, 100%. A parent is an 100%.
This is my point.
So you're saying by my education, I'm involuntarily indoctrinating.
Technically, yes, some of it.
Again,
right? And the point is, it helps you get to the next step. It helps you get to the more interesting stuff.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't need to query everything at the lowest level at that age to be able to understand
but the
at a higher
difference is,
level.
right? But the difference is, right? I could tell my wee girl, right now, no, all right, her mother did about Santa, but I could tell her that God's real and all of this shit, and I could be telling her this. And people have Sunday schools. This is why I ended up in the Salvation Army. My mother took me down the cross community route, was because of the Presbyterians and all that there and their fucking Sunday schools. You know, she started sending us whenever my brother was, sending me and stuff. That's around this age and shit. You know, it's no good. All right? And they're doing the same thing. I could tell her that, and she would believe it, and this, that, and the other. But the difference is, when she got to a certain age, and say for talk's sake she went to university, she would find out I'm wrong. The difference is, when I tell her due to evolution and stuff like that, she's going to go to fucking university, and she's going to go back and go, do you remember, Daddy, when you told me about fucking great apes and shit like that there, and all that there? And I was like, yeah. Well, we came from this, that, and the other, and she's going to have more information to add to what I give her.
There are two problems with this. The first one is she's going to have absolutely bugger all memory of it. This is the key problem. This is the reason I think indoctrination is such a fucking powerful tool.
Okay, she's not going to... Okay, right. Don't get me wrong. She may not have an exact memory of that particular day as much as a parent does. We all understand that. But the difference is there is things that stick out in your mind. And I do not remember reading 500 answers, but I remember being in my bedroom and having a memory of that, sitting there and reading multiple books. But the one and the story and what I want to share is the first book, because the first book was poignant. Don't remember the first book. Remember the Hardy Boys. Hardly remember the Hardy Boys. Love the bones of the fucking Jim Dodge, Stone Junction, because that was slightly older and it sticks in my memory more. But the picture in my mind of sitting in that wee nook in my room, and that's a memory. That's something that sticks out in my mind. That still survives there, with the emotional response, the educational response, the drive to learn. Whether I remember the details or not. Our brains are no good at that shit, but the emotional response, you attach things to it.
Okay, let me phrase it a different way. Right? Your child is going to be indoctrinated. You should be the one making decisions about what he's indoctrinated about.
Sorry, I'm replying to something. I'll be quicker just to say it. Kafefi? Is that how you say it?
I'd say yes.
Thank you. She comes from, her mother's side is a long line of Republican Catholics, strong down south Catholics, they believe, and all of that sort of stuff. Her mum would be still quite religious. Her father would be more atheistic, but still would consider himself a Christian. And with the exception of going to, like, the blessing of the graves and things like that, I didn't want to go to the blessing of the graves where they all stand around for an hour and fucking all that. That's a very God thing. But I have no problem with her mum, and we have went, and she has been christened. We went and did that, and her mother is very poignant about her going through her confirmation, because it is things that she went through as a religious person that were poignant to her life. So we have come to the agreement that my daughter, although we won't raise her saying God is this and God is that, she still will experience the cultural things that her mother experienced as a religious person, which would be confirmation and getting christened and stuff like that. And she's around religious icons and things like that. So I do expect these questions later in life. But her mother doesn't press it on her. Big major things that are very Catholic, they're very religious. You know, when they're very Catholic, I mean very religious, because I'm an atheist. And we don't go to that. And she's fine with that. And she's grand with that. We have our limits. We've come to the ground. I think we co-parent quite well. But she is around Catholicism. She is around religion. I do expect these things to be asked. It's not pushed upon her. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to take a shot at that as well, because, yeah, I mean, if you were to deliberately keep your child from experiencing anything to do with God, that is tantamount to locking them in their room and never letting them out until they get to the age of consent. And that is obviously a terrible thing to do. That's abuse of a child. If you let your child out to experience society, then of course they're going to come across concepts of God. Christianity obviously celebrates Christmas, and most children, right, enjoy Christmas, right? So it's not possible to isolate. It's not possible to isolate a child from the beliefs in the culture. And beliefs in the culture are God. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead now.
What about the other way? What about? I mean, they now have enough of these in the States. We have it less so here, where you have an entire community of a completely homogenous religion that are then homeschooled and do not know. I think it is just as much child abuse that they do not know that any other religion exists.
Sure. I mean, there is a sense of that. I think abuse might be a strong word there.
Fair enough.
But, because they're not literally locking them in their room and saying you can never go outside, right? There are certain people, there are certain sects that do that, but then they allow them at a certain age to go out and experience the world and then come back and become part of the faith. So I don't think it's ever going to be that simple, right? You can't isolate someone from a society completely. That's child abuse.
Yeah.
Right. And I would agree if that's what you mean by that. But no, I mean, my parents literally brought me up and they did not tell me about God. All right. They literally didn't mention it. I mean, it just wasn't a subject that came up. I had no concept until later on in life, maybe 5 or 6, when I was going, well, what am I doing in assembly? What are these words that I'm singing in hymns?
Yeah.
What is this? And then I started considering it. Then I had questions.
We had to pray
so
every
I
morning.
I think songs.
They never. Hang on a minute. They never stopped me asking the questions, right?
Yeah.
Right. But they didn't say to me, "Well, here's the answer. It's that a God exists." Right? That's the difference. Go ahead now, Dave. Sorry.
I think it might be songs that got. At the end of the day, my memory is broken. I don't know if you know that. Right, my memory is completely broken. I've lost most of my life memory-wise, so I've only got tiny fragments. Right, and I struggled to. I know I believed in God at some point, and I know that I didn't believe it at some point. I know at some point I was looking in between there. But I think songs might be the thing that did it for me. And it was stopping and reading the lyrics as opposed to just singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
Lyrics always are. Oh.
No, I wasn't picking my nose.
As a shout out, just if I can wholly
Yeah.
shill the life out of all this sort of stuff. Simos was around for the stream the other night, then the after party the other night, then the members and Patreon only stream as well. And because of there was only a few of us, he got his boobs out. He got the boobs out.
I got the boobs out. Yeah.
He got the boobs out. This is the joy.
I have a massive pair of boobs. I mean bollocks. Sorry, boobs. Yes.
Yeah, this is the things you get if you throw a few pound in and become a member or anything like that. So, and by the way, if Noxum, if you're still watching, you deserve a link to that regardless. You've contributed an entire year's worth of membership in fucking super chats. So if you can send me another email, I will definitely at least give you the link to that. I know I'm a wee bit tight at the minute in what I promised earlier, and we'll not talk about that. But yeah, you definitely deserve at least the link to that. And some fun stuff over there. You get to find out a wee bit more about MathPig, a wee bit more about some of the guests that join, and a wee bit of background. And bollocks. Lots of bollocks. You know, what I'm making here and what I'm doing here. And yeah, worthwhile. Get to know a wee bit more about MathPig.
So if you don't have any preconceptions, if you don't go into it with preconceptions, one of the things that's been said in the community for many years.
I'm going to leave you in charge. I need to go short the dog. All right, back in a second.
Okay.
Oh, right.
One of the things that's been said for many years, that if you don't come to it with preconceptions, the thing that's most likely to make you an atheist is actually reading the Bible. Yeah. Of course, by that we mean a local atheist. But and that's the same for many scriptures, I think. Once you actually start reading them and trying to understand what they say according to some kind of logical framework, then you're going to find some kind of contradiction. Let's face it, most literature has those contradictions, whether we like it or not. The language is just not strong enough to convey any kind of absolute truth.
I don't understand why most Christians lie about it, about reading the Bible.
Yeah, again, it's not per se the Bible. I made the point there on.
No,
but,
I get that.
But you know,
it was
any literature is going to have this problem, virtually, unless it's the most simple syllogism.
Most literature people don't hold to as being their core belief.
Yeah, but again, there's a whole psychological kind of addition that we don't. I can't understand because I've never had that psychological state where I need to believe in the thing. If you go into life, right? This is my personal opinion now, Dave. So please don't take this as any kind of serious argument. But I personally went into life before I became aware of my own mortality or the problems to do with life and relationships and psychological, kind of states. I was already an atheist. So as such, right, I had to find answers, right, to grieving, love loss, right, experiencing the highs and lows or extreme changes in psychological state in short periods of times. All of those things which most people can just go, oh, right, well, I'll meet my granny in heaven or my mother in heaven, right? So that's fine and no problem. Do you see what I mean? Well, I had to find that answer without relying on God. And it can be done. There's no doubt about it. It can be done. But it's psychologically very easy to temporarily stick a bandage on it, on that grieving wound, by saying, well, I'll meet them in heaven later. Right?
Yes.
That's I can accept that, right? I can see and go, oh yeah, okay, if I thought that probably would ease my mind. But it wouldn't change the pain I feel inside of the loss.
No.
Right, and that's what I was addressing. That's why I feel atheism is a stronger position, or humanism in my case is a stronger position, because it allows me to deal with my own mortality and my own set of grief about my mother and my father.
I don't think any religion does. I don't think any religion.
Well, it's a temporary bandage. A bandage is a temporary fix. Remember, you still need the body to heal itself. That's how I look at it.
I carried my granny's coffin. My nanny's coffin, sorry, my father's mother. I carried that twice in the bucket and rain in a shirt, and carried it right down.
Okay, that sounds really weird.
No, well,
how'd you carry it twice?
Pardon? Because there wasn't enough men. I carried it at the start, and then they were rotating.
Fair enough.
And then I carried it again, and we carried it right down. I carried it at the start up the hill, and then at the very end carried it down again, and did all that. Went to the service and stuff like that, and I've never been back to my nanny's grave. And I'm looking at my nanny right now because she's right in front of me, because I have a picture of her right in front of me. And I do mention her, and I do think about her, and she was a big influence in my life. You know, even when we used to sneak out from my mum's, and she, you didn't have to get fucking checked when you snuck in through the fields as a kid when you were drunk. And she used to hide us from my mum and feed us in the morning and make sure we went home and were looked after. And she was, for an old lady, she was very, very cool for a very old lady, you know. And I've never been back to her grave. I've never been back to my Auntie Jacqueline's grave. I've never been back to my grandfather's grave, either of them. Well, no, tell you a lie, that's a lie. I go back to my mother's father the odd time, because I would give her a hand to tidy the grave and, keep it tidy, because that's her job, so I would help out with that. And you remember these people. We don't need graves. We don't need... not to be an asshole, but to taking up all this fucking land. Amount of people being dead in the ground, there's a lot of different ways to go. You don't need to remember the person by standing above them. Their dead body. They're fucking worms and well, it's what they are.
No.
That was my ultimate solution, was to think that they exist in my mind, and as long as my mind exists, they will exist. And there's nothing, and that's as good at honouring as I can do. I don't need to think that I'm going to meet them again, or that they exist in some other realm, just to satisfy my own psychological disposition.
My nanny was that down to earth towards the end of her life. I would still have hung out and stuff, but I was older at this stage, and at this stage I was smoking. And when we were younger, we didn't want our nanny to die young, so we used to take her cigarettes, put them in the sink, turn the tap on them when she wasn't looking. We were bastard wee kids, but we did it out of love. So she told us we should all stop smoking, which she didn't. She just didn't smoke in front of us anymore, so we didn't fucking destroy her cigarettes. And I was older, and I was not only smoking cigarettes, I was smoking weed at the time, and I was very open with my nanny, and she had told me a story about my cousin, which was very open, that my cousin told her this, and that she even shared it with me. It was like, I don't want to know that shit about fucking Lindsay and why she told you that. And seeing as she was in that, I was like, look, Granny, or Nanny, I know I used to do wet your cigarettes and stuff, but I'm going to go to the back door for a smoke. And she was like, right, that's no bother. And I had a joint already rolled, so I went to the back door of her house and I had a joint, and she took out a pack of fags, and then she told me she still smoked, and I told her I smoked weed, and we had a whole moment, and she gave me some Jaffa cakes with some tea, and I miss my nanny. She was great. And these are the things that stick in your memory, not a fucking dirt in the ground, not a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Exactly. I stopped the other day and slowed down 2 weeks ago when we were coming back. Do you remember when we walked to the big rock? The big stone, Dave?
No.
I told you. There's pictures on Twitter. Me and Elena walked to the big stone, the top of the mountain.
I saw the pictures.
I doubt it.
You didn't doubt it. All right. I faked the pictures, right?
Well, no. I don't doubt that you did. I don't remember.
Okay. Well, when that shit happened, Simos, thanks for backing me up on that. That literally is maybe 200 yards from the beach, and then it starts to go up the hill. The road is right along the beach. There's a wee wall. Then there's a bit of a beach. It's right on the edge of the sea, that particular area. And as soon as you go into Kilbrony Park, it starts going up straight away. and the big stones at the very top. But as we were coming back down again, I actually did slow down because there was a sign right opposite or right on the fucking beach, and it was a wee small area, and it's not in great condition, but it comes with beach, and like, you know, if I have beach, I can get my shit a Viking funeral. Nobody's gonna stop me because I own my own beach. I don't care if it's legal or not. Once I'm burnt and in the water, can't fucking shout at me. I'm dead, and it's my fucking, you know, right on the beach. So yeah, slow down. I'm dead. That's my thoughts. That's if I was gonna go anywhere, you know, dead. Set up a big marquee in the beach. Make sure there's a full-fledged bar and a full 3-course meal for absolutely everybody. I want a play park for the kids during the day, and at least 4 babysitters to look after them all night, and everybody that's friends to just stay. And I don't know why the audio was gone so muffy.
Yeah, it's back again now.
It was me with my hand in front of me. I'm waving my hand about. This is the thing with the fucking condenser. I'm doing this shit and it cuts out the audio. You fucking. No, that's.
Anyway.
I want people to remember me, have a good fucking time, and at the end of the day, you're not going to come back to my grave. I don't expect anyone to come back to my grave, so why fucking make one?
Yeah, no, I'll remember you. Yeah, anyway, I will, yeah.
That guy wasn't it some sort of cow?
That guy, I can't remember.
What guy's a cow?
He was into science or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Cock.
no, absolutely right. I'm making light of it because, of course, it's a hard subject to talk about. But I agree with what you've said. Exactly, I agree with what you said.
Really quickly, my auntie, when my nanny died, when my grandfather died, which would have been my nanny's husband, they did a really bad service, mainly about going to hell and not about him. My auntie shouted at the guy who did the service and was like, not too happy. And then whenever my nanny died, he split it. It was half going to hell and half about my nanny. And when my auntie died, she did not want to go through that. So the actual service sort of thing was in what the Americans would have, like a funeral home. So that's what she had over here. And what she wanted was to be surrounded by laughter and happiness. And she went downhill very fast. She was sick for about 5 or 6 years, but then she found out she had cancer and there was no saving it. It's really far gone and you're fucked. So she told nobody. So we found out like a month towards the end. And,
that's brave.
Everybody sort of rushed around to get round and spend a few, wee bit of time with her and stuff. And at the very, very end, she had lost maybe, I think 7 or 8 stone. She didn't look like my auntie or whatever, but she looked more like she looked more like her mother. She looked more like my granny. And you couldn't talk to her. And she was very under with opiates and stuff like that. And she was in her own house. And there was a nurse would come around and check, as they do with the NHS. But she was surrounded, on the night that she died, what she heard during the day was about 7 crazy fucking mad grandchildren on the double bed beside her. Because she's in a double bed and there's a double bed beside her. And they're jumping up and down in the bed. They're playing dinosaurs. They're playing tag. They're going buck-ass mad crazy. And that was the last thing she heard before she died, was what she wanted, was the happiness of her family, the happiness of the kids around her. And I've been criticised for that. And even at the time, the mother of the child was like, you brought Elena, you want to take Elena up to see your dying auntie? And I was like, yeah, she needs to get used to that.
Yeah.
And in saying that now, sometimes she goes in the morning on a Sunday morning, she's like, look, Daddy, I found a dead moth. She pokes them and stuff. The dead crabs that I showed pictures of from Newcastle this weekend past, pictures that I didn't show of, is she was like, well, it's dead, Daddy. She got her finger and she squished it through the top of the crab and crushed every one of them. She was like, no, they're dead, doesn't matter. And it was like, she just crushed them into little bits. It was a little bit vindictive, but she doesn't do it with live animals, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if anything, it shows that she's got a fundamental understanding of what's going on in life. So,
yeah, she understands the difference between death. I do feel that she understands the difference between death. She needs a big, strong strike against her, like her first pet, to really hit it home, to sound like a fucking logical evil bastard. But she has the fundamentals of it down.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, look, it's going to be time for me to take off soon to let you know. It's getting late here, so there's that.
Yeah,
But no, I think Jake's a wonderful addition to the community if he stays around, etc.
He did send me a message saying thanks very much for the invite. It was one of the best streams I've been part of so far. Very low key and friendly. Had a great time. So that's,
Excellent.
I don't mean to share a DM, but yeah.
No, that's cool.
I'm
That's
glad
cool.
that he had a good time. I had a good time. The banter was good. The chat was good. And I did not catch crabs. They were dead crabs wrapped in seaweed. She's already learned if you want to find crabs, she goes looking in the fucking seaweed. That's been washed
You're
up
saying
in the
you've
weed.
got crabs?
See, that's the
He's-
point. I
He's got
clarified
crabs,
that at the
but
start.
they're all dead, so
Uh-huh.
Got you.
yeah.
Are we live yet?
And-
Are we live?
Are we live?
Right.
No.
Thank
I'm
you
not.
very much for coming. If any of the Patreons or any of the members are up for joining and having a stream or anything like that, there, let me know in the next couple of minutes. I'll let the live chat run with the outro video, and I'll let it run for a couple of minutes. If you're up for it, I consider Dave probably going to bed. Simos is going to bed, but I'm up for another one.
Yeah, I am.
So,
yeah.
if any of the Patreons or members want me to continue that on, type 69 in type Dave 69 in the chat, and we'll keep the crack going over in the members on the Patreon stream. So yeah, with that, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks again. Shout out for Dave. Fuck me, I looked at the chat and said you typed Dave, and I said Dave. Thanks to Jake. Fuck Dave. Thanks to Jake for coming. Thanks everybody for watching. And
Hey, you got something to say to me?
it is, isn't it? Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks for being such a good friend. Thanks for always being here. And happy 53rd birthday, Dave.
Oh, you're so kind.
Oh, happy birthday, Dave.
And if we can also, I don't know if you know this, Dave, it may not be 12 o'clock yet where they are, but happy birthday to Jaded Atheist as well. It is their birthday on the same day as yours, Dave. So
Is it?
happy
I didn't
birthday
know
to Jaded Atheist as well.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jade.
Yeah.
Birthday, Jake.
I
Happy
don't know
birthday,
you,
Jade.
but you have my sincere best wishes.
Yeah. Jade, your presence in the post. I forgot about Dave's. Joking.
And Maya says happy birthday, Dave, as well.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hey, just Geo's here as well, so there you go. You got plenty of time.
Talk to you
Come
all
in
later.
and join the after show.
Yeah, you're going to get Geo in the after show as well, folks. Come on. There's already going to be an after show to the after show. So, everybody, thanks very much for coming. And with that, Dave69. Love you all later. Bye. Where's that outro button?
Bye.
Think for yourself or some shit. Are we live? Are we live?